Tonight, surrender to 3 tales of dread, haunting stories of crimson secrets, ghostly songs, and enigmatic blooms that will grip your soul. And let's begin.
Crimson Flowers by Tod Robbins. John Carew was working in his garden. Far away over the distant hilltops, the dying sun hung like a huge paper lantern on an invisible wire. Against this lurid background, the small bent figure of the old man resembled a spider weaving its web before the open grate. Leaning on the hedge, I spoke to him. "So you are at work again, Mr. Carew? How are your flowers progressing?" Dropping his shovel nervously, he turned his yellow, shrunken face toward me. From the midst of the roses, it looked like a misplaced sunflower. "So you have been watching me," he cried in a shrill, quavering voice. "That is good for people, to watch me at work. It may teach them other things than gardening." "What, for instance?" "Why, life itself. The mind is a garden, my friend. What lies hidden there must spring to life. These flowers are crimson thoughts. See how quickly they grow. Grow into deeds if I do not cut them each day. So must all men do if they would live in the sunlight. They must cut the crimson thoughts out of their gardens, even as I." Once more he bent over his flowers, picking up the shears with grim satisfaction. He began cutting off their languid, drooping heads. "But this must be a very wicked garden," I said. "What is buried here?" "Ah," said he, "you would like to know that, eh? What a man my son was! You can have no idea. Such a sly one, such a cruel one, such a bloodthirsty one. Crimson thoughts were in his head continually, but now they grow nicely in my garden. He ruined me, he tortured me, he made my head revolve on my shoulders. Yes, actually revolve like a wheel. But now I have him here, and he supports me in my old age. Each day I sell his thoughts, his evil, crimson thoughts. What a revenge that is! He lies there, grinding his teeth because of it, and he can do nothing, nothing. When the hangman was through with him, they gave me what was left from my garden. But have a thought, lady, have a crimson thought for a remembrance." So saying, he rose and hobbled toward me with a single flower in his hand, a flower that glowed like a handful of the bloody sunset in the west. The Song from the Dead by Bragg. "I have not played," shuddered Mulbring, "since she died." "But is it just," I asked, "to neglect your mission to the world?" The muscles of Mulbring's face twitched. "You don't understand," he muttered. "I dare not play." He thrust out his hands despairingly and turned from the piano. "You were there the night of her American debut. We had been married only a few days." He swallowed as if something choked him. "There is something." Again he shuddered. "She was nervous. Her initial appearance in America. And someone in the gallery laughed." After a tense silence, he continued. "Oh, the sight of her, stricken, dazed, then the laughter of the audience quenched suddenly, hideously by her own. Those awful days of her delirium. Always singing the opening measures of her aria, only to break into that mad laughter. She died laughing." Suddenly his eyes blazed. He crashed back the piano lid. An indescribable thrill passed through me as those long-denied fingers united with the beloved keys. Swiftly, tenderly, he slipped into a Brahms melody. Suddenly I straightened, staring. I knew my Brahms as well as he. Whence came those alien chords? The next instant angry fingers punished the keys. Mulbring ceased, his face ghastly. "Did you hear?" he gasped. "That accursed aria haunts me." Then I realized the original of those intruding chords. They were the introductory measures to the aria his wife sang at her last public appearance. Mulbring's fingers fumbled over a jangle of tones. He pulled himself from the seat and plucked at my sleeve. "I hired them to hiss," he moaned. "I wanted to discourage her. I could not share the homage. I was to be all." He sobbed hysterically. "I never hired them to laugh. No, not to laugh." I moved away, horror-stricken, but could not tear my eyes from him. "Let her sing!" he shouted, attacking the aria with a mad thunder of volume. I could not listen, and rushed from the room. Too late. I heard the voice, the break, the terrible laugh. Then I heard Mulbring laughing madly with her. Violets by Harold de Polo. The very house itself looked like the abode of tragedy, standing white and bleak as it did on the wind-swept hill under the whirling snow. Inside, in a prim, forbidding room, a woman lay dying. Mere death was not the tragical part of it. What made it hard was that the woman did not want to die, just yet. "If only God had been good enough to wait until the spring," she told the doctor by her side, then I might have seen my violets." All her life, alone, she had lived in her little white house on the hill, with her flowers. They were her only love, her only goal. She was known the countryside over and farther. Automobile parties on Sundays would leave the state road miles away for a look at her famed gardens. Again she breathed a fervent prayer and spoke to the physician. "Oh, doctor, if only I might see my violets, or if only I might see any of my flowers. But my violets? I have always loved my violets more." The doctor was bending over her now, for her head had sunk farther back into the pillow, and her eyes had closed. Suddenly, however, they opened, and with all the strength in her emaciated frame, she pushed him away and lurched forward to a sitting posture. There was color in her cheeks now, and her gaunt, plain face was even very, very beautiful. She put out her hands and clutched at the air, and her voice was stronger as she cried out, "Oh, I knew it! I knew that God would be good and kind. I knew that He would not take me away without letting me see them. Look! My violets! My violets! My violets! My violets!" But the voice stopped abruptly, and she fell back. Her face, though, was neither pain-ridden nor longing. It was utterly serene and happy. "Queer," murmured the doctor as he covered her with a sheet. "Queer how the dying always seem to have those hallucinations." The nurse, who had been off on an errand, entered the room as he finished his task. Why, doctor," she asked blankly, standing by the bed. "Where did they come from? Where are they?" "What come from?" he asked with a frown. The violets, doctor. There was a very strong smell of them when I came in the room."